3-year layout update video on my South African Railways Waterkloof layout, HO scale, modeling South African Railways from 1980 to 1990. What you see in front of you right now is the dispatchers panel, which consists of the red buttons, that is route control, and the green buttons, that is the signal control. The green button will select the green signal, as you can see there, and that has got the route indication. So as the routes are selected, the indicator changes with that, and once the train has passed a certain spot, it will automatically change back to red. Come, let us now follow a train around the layout. We follow the Transkaroo as it starts from the track leading down from Vlakteplaas, going through behind Aloes and on the main line. Running behind East London Harbour. Transkaroo entering into Waterkloof station. And in the distance we can actually see the green signal waiting for the loco, and we'll watch at Waterkloof Diesel Depot. The parking area for the staff has been added, as you can see, as well as the call person that need to go and call the drivers and technicians, whoever, when there's a problem or when they come on duty. Plus at the back you can see there is one of the technicians with his toolbox in hand, ready to go to work. The diesel parked in front is a class 34 in the blue livery of Transnet, and also the sanding towers downpipes have been added. The fuel tanks are the same as previously, and also as we pan to the back, and we can see the fueling station plus the pump station at the back, where the fuel is pumped to the fuel hose for the diesel locomotives. And then on the sanding rack you can see the operator busy getting the buttons pressed to activate the sand coming down to sand the locomotives. At the Waterkloof platforms, hoses have been added to water the passenger coaches. They were added to all stations where trains stopped for longer than 30 minutes, and the hose pipes were connected to water tanks underneath the passenger coaches, so that there was ample water for use in the bathroom, showers, toilets, etc. On the platform, prototypical luggage trolleys has been added. This specific one is carrying the prototypical bedding bags that we used on the passenger trains during 1980 to 1990. And if we pan to the right, we can see there is one of the porters busy loading luggage onto the trolley. The exit signals, or starter signals as it's called in Britain, that is controlled by the dispatcher, set to green for departure, and once the train has reached a certain spot, it will turn back to red again. And this is the other side's exit signals, starter signals, and you will notice, because on this side as the rails exit, there is a departure to the harbour, to the main line, or to the grain silo that is right in the back there. So you have a 3-route route indicator that will activate when the signal turns to green. And this also works on the same principle of an optic sensor in the track, that once a locomotive passes over it, it will turn to red. We'll see if I can just activate it by creating a shadow. Did not work with a shadow, but by putting my finger over the sensor, it automatically turned back to red. One of the major updates that happened during the past year was a complete rebuild of the East London harbour section. I will just pan slowly that you can get an idea of all the changes that has happened scenery wise. And the reason for this, there's another video on the channel showing the East London harbour update. The dockside used to be right in the back behind the grain silo against the wall, and that was out of reach of the operator. So after a operating session, I decided to redesign it and put the dockside where most of the switching or shunting takes place, right in front, in easy reach of the operators. So that resulted in about 6 months of reconstruction, but I must say I am quite pleased with the results. Let's zoom into some of the finer details. A lighthouse that was added with a rotating beacon. That has been quite an achievement, I think, as the lighthouses along the South African coast most use this method, where the beacon rotates and then you can see the light for a few seconds until it rotates away. Also, there has been another crane added to the dockside. So there are now 2 cranes servicing the dockside, and while there should be a sign up saying no fishing, we have a, shall we say, disobedient citizen busy trying to catch his supper. And also note the bumpers for the ships that come and dock here, plus the bollards that were all scratch built. The ladder leading down for the pilot boat. Unfortunately, there is no water being added yet, as the operators will stand right next to it or even in the water. So therefore water will not be a feature on this specific area of the layout, even though it is a harbour. Then something else that was added during the last year was some seagulls. These are actually also scratch built. I used some air drying clay to construct these after a lot of patience. I managed to get 4 that were acceptable and painted and put them on the layout. There are the other 2 seagulls, and if we can just zoom out a little bit, you can see there are all 4 of the seagulls, plus the depot in the background. And if we zoom into the Portnet depot, we can see that there's a lady on the harbour, and she's not doing Christian mission work. She's actually a lady of the night, and while she's busy plying her trade, around the back corner we can have a peek. There are 2 guys busy with a shady drug deal, while the security officer is only concerned with keeping the cars that has to be shipped in the parking bay safe. The next area that is part of the harbour is the container depot, where the container crane has been lighted. If we turn the lights off, you can see the container crane still has its own lights, and the container train will park underneath, be unloaded, and then the train will be shipped out again. And there's the overhead lights on to illuminate the whole area. I'm using LED strip lights to illuminate the whole of the harbour section. Slightly behind the container area to the left is the fuel depot, and this has also been upgraded since the last video on an update. A complete new 3 tanks has been added, and the scratch built loading bay, plus behind that is a scratch built vehicle loading bay, as well as the scratch built piping, although the piping comes from a kit, but they were scratched together. And then also something else that is quite interesting is the tar roads and paved area. That has actually been made using some 1200 grit sandpaper. And of course all the buildings there are lighted as well. If we turn off the main lights, you can see the high mast lighting as well as the interior lighting in the buildings. And at the entrance to the harbour, there is the street lights. Inside the customs office, you can see the man busy with the documentation on the table, and while he's busy there, we can pan to the right slowly, and excuse the backdrop busy falling down. That will be replaced by proper vinyl backdrop. This is just a temporary paper mock-up. You can see a junkyard named after my late dad Louis, so that is Louis's junkyard. And then the motorcycles with sidecar, a little van and an ambulance on way to a emergency somewhere. And then to hide the road meeting the wall, there is a building for Farmer Brown chickens that will eventually be weathered and fenced, etc., to hide the joint with the wall. As we continue around the corner from East London Harbour, we come to the cement works that is as yet unnamed, and there the cement bagging plant has been added at the back. As you can see, a forklift is busy adding the bags to a little pickup truck, and once that is done, it will drive off. Panning back to the lighthouse, behind the lighthouse you can see Bruce's Engineering, named for my late friend Bruce Clement, who passed away a good couple of years ago already. And behind Bruce's Engineering, if we zoom in a little bit, we can see informal settlements with washing hanging on the line, and the informal dwelling was actually built using some street signs. If I can just try and get a bit closer, the boards that are used for street signs had been liberated and skillfully woven together to actually make a dwelling place.